You know that feeling? You set a massive goal like running a marathon, maybe landing a huge client, or totally changing your career path. You start strong, but then bam, you're just crushed by the weight of the output you want.
Right. You're staring at the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Staring at the result, the win. And it just feels huge and maybe kind of out of reach.
External.
And I think we often quit, not because we don't want it, but because we're like measuring ourselves against things we can't fully control.
And that anxiety you mentioned, the stress about the outcome, hitting that external target, well, that's exactly what our source material tackles head on today.
Okay.
So we're doing a strategic deep dive into this really powerful, actionable two-step framework for actually getting goals. Our mission here is to fundamentally re-engineer how you approach success.
Re-engineer, I like that.
Yeah, we're diving into sources that shift the focus completely away from those stressful, often unpredictable results, the outputs, and onto the things you can actually manipulate today, right now. Your controllable actions and behaviors, the inputs.
The inputs, okay.
And this shift, it's designed not just for, sustained achievement, but crucially for dissolving that anxiety that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable.
Okay, let's unpack this framework then. It sounds like a structure pretty clearly.
It is.
Our source material gives us two main areas to explore. First, there's the core philosophy, right? Focusing on inputs, the sort of mental reset needed.
Exactly.
And second, the specific way to do it, the operational part, which they call the A4 method. This sounds like where the rubber meets the road.
That's a good way to put it.
So if you're listening and looking for a roadmap that makes today's effort feel, I don't know, guaranteed and meaningful, this is probably the deep dive for you.
Definitely.
All right, step one then. The philosophical shift. The source says the whole process starts by basically ignoring the desired outputs.
Completely ignoring them, yeah.
And focusing only on inputs. It sounds simple, maybe too simple. I think people might confuse it with just like trying harder.
Well, it's more strategic than just brute effort, and what's really interesting is the specific language they use. Inputs, for our purposes today, are those actions and behaviors entirely within your direct, immediate control.
Okay, like what?
Like studying for exactly 1 hour, or spending 30 minutes refining just one chapter outline for a book, things you decide to do.
Got it.
Outputs, on the other hand, are the external results, passing the exam, signing the client, the, overall quality of the finished book. The key difference is that control variable. Can you directly make it happen?
Okay, so if I'm trying to lose, say, 20 pounds,
Yeah.
the output is the number on the scale.
Right, external.
But the inputs are choosing the salad over the burger and the length of my morning walk.
Exactly.
I can guarantee I take the walk. I can't guarantee what the scale says next Friday.
Precisely. And the source material really emphasizes why this mindset shift is so crucial. It actually points to personal stories, anecdotes of people who were just constantly frustrated by failure. And that failure wasn't because they were lazy. It was because they had a faulty measurement system. They were measuring the wrong thing. Until you stop measuring your progress, maybe even your self-worth, by these unpredictable external things, the market, the weather, what some judge thinks, you're basically setting yourself up for disappointment and eventually burnout.
Wow. That's a powerful realization. It's like saying you shouldn't get credit for the win itself, but for the process that led there.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It reframes where the value lies.
But what about the anxiety part? If I still really want that big output, how does ignoring it actually make me less stressed? It seems counterintuitive.
Because you shift the definition of success itself. See, if you're struggling with goal anxiety, focusing on those controllable actions is the antidote. You stop waiting for, external feedback to tell you if you're successful.
Great.
You succeed the moment you perform the controlled input you decided on. You basically define success on your own terms, daily.
So if the big output goal is write a great novel, that just hangs over you, right? Like a cloud.
Yeah, great.
But the controllable input is write 500 words before noon. You can hit that target every single day, whether a publisher ever calls or not.
Exactly.
That feeling of, emotional freedom, that alone seems worth making the shift.
And it really is the foundation for sustained success. Why does the system work long term? Because
Mhm.
success becomes this accumulation of small daily wins, consistent effort over time.
Right, little bricks in the wall.
You don't need one single huge output-dependent event to feel like you're making progress. You validate your effort continuously just by sticking to the process.
So we're trading that emotional roller coaster of outcome dependency,
Mm-hmm.
where your motivation goes up and down based on outside
Would that
stuff.
be like quiet confidence of process consistency?
Perfectly put. It's a much steadier way to operate. Okay, that fundamentally reframes the whole effort. It moves it away from being this huge, stressful pursuit and towards a daily manageable practice.
Yeah.
So if that mindset shift is step one, how does the source give us the actual tools, the mechanism to make this practical? We need some structure, right?
Absolutely. If the first part gave you the direction, focus on inputs, then the second step gives you the structure.
Okay.
This is where the A4 method comes in. Think of it as the strategic playbook for how to actually execute that input focus consistently.
A4.
And critically, the whole framework is fundamentally rooted in self-awareness. Because, well, you can't control what you don't even acknowledge about your own process. You need to see what you're doing first.
Right, makes sense. Okay, 4 A's.
Yeah.
And they guide us through building this input-focused process. Let's break them down. What's the foundational A? Where do we start?
The necessary starting point, the absolute foundation, is awareness. And this A is defined simply as the necessary act of tracking behaviors.
Tracking behavior.
Yeah. If the input focus is the philosophy, awareness is kind of the data collection engine. You just have to know what inputs you're actually performing. How many minutes did you really work? How many times did you resist that distraction? What foods did you actually eat?
Okay, but wait. Isn't tracking behavior itself kind of demanding?
Hmm.
Another input. How do we stop the tracking, the record keeping, from becoming just another stressful output goal?
Hmm.
Like, people often quit habit trackers because they feel they're failing at tracking.
That's a really key distinction the source addresses. Awareness here is about observation without judgment. The goal of this A isn't to get a perfect score on your tracker. It's simply to gather objective data on your choices. If you track that you, I don't know, spent 3 hours scrolling social media, that's not a failure, it's just data, information. You need that objective information before you can possibly optimize your choices later. It's the difference between saying, ugh, I feel like I never get enough sleep, and having a log that shows you actually average, say, 6 hours and 19 minutes. One is a feeling, the other is a fact you can work with.
That makes perfect sense. So we're tracking the process inputs, not judging the results of those inputs yet. Okay, got it. So once we have this data through awareness, where does the A4 structure take us next?
The second A is affiliations. This one moves a bit beyond just your own internal actions and connects your environment to your success.
Affiliations.
Yeah.
Like who you hang out with.
Exactly. Affiliations is the deliberate practice of aligning with supportive people and environments. It turns out your surroundings profoundly influence many of your spontaneous inputs, the choices you make almost automatically. So controlling who you surround yourself with, finding people who actually reinforce the positive behaviors you're trying to build, that's absolutely a controllable input.
Can you give us a concrete example of that?
Sure. Imagine you're trying to train for a triathlon. Serious commitment, right?
Right.
Now, if your main social circle, your closest friends, only ever wants to invite you out for late night pizza and drinks,
Yeah.
think about the tension you feel. That constant emotional effort of having to say no or feeling left out.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
That exhaustion is the result of unmanaged affiliations. Conversely, someone focused on inputs would actively seek out, say, a training partner, or maybe join a virtual accountability group for triathletes. The act of choosing that partner or group, that's an input. And that single choice makes every subsequent required input, like getting up at 5 a.m. for a swim, significantly easier because your environment supports it.
That's huge. It really transforms relationship management from something passive, something that just happens to you, into an active part of achieving your goals.
Okay.
And number 3, this one seems to address the what of the effort.
That's right. And number 3 is aptitude. This A is all about the goal of acquiring necessary skills. Yes. And this is a really powerful input focus because skill building is almost always controllable. You might not be able to control, say, how good you are right now compared to others in the market,
Right.
but you can always control the time and effort you spend learning, practicing, and improving your core skills. That's an input.
So, okay, if the ultimate output is launching a successful product, the input under aptitude would be something like spending 45 minutes every single morning learning the new coding language required to build it.
Exactly that. It means focusing on the time spent training, the quality of your deliberate practice, really focused effort, rather than judging your current skill level or constantly comparing yourself to some master programmer.
Got it.
The source emphasizes that pretty much any goal, no matter how complex it seems, can be broken down into a series of skills. And each of those skills can be individually trained. Training the skill is the input you control, the outcome of the product launch. That's the output. You keep your eye on the training time, the input.
It always comes back to the action and the time dedicated. Okay, so we've tracked our actions with awareness, optimized our environment with affiliations, and we're building our skills with aptitude. That brings us to the final A. This one feels like it ties it all together, the culmination of internal control.
It really does.
Yeah.
The final A is autonomy. And this is defined as the critical step of taking ownership of your choices.
Ownership.
Yes. Autonomy is the ultimate manifestation of internal control. Because if you truly believe your success relies on the consistent inputs you choose, well, then you have to own those choices entirely. No excuses.
Right.
This is where you shift from maybe blaming circumstances. Oh, I couldn't write today because dog was barking all morning.
I might have used that one.
We all have. But you shift to recognizing your agency. It becomes, I chose not to find a way to mitigate the noise, or I chose not to write later when the dog is quiet. It puts the responsibility back on you.
That's powerful. Because it really gives you back your control, doesn't it? When you stop using the language of victimhood, this happened to me, and replace it with deliberate choice, I chose this, you realize every step of the process was yours. For better or worse, you're the architect.
Exactly. You're the architect of your input process. And it creates this incredible psychological freedom. The moment you define success based on your inputs, the only person truly accountable for that success is you. You move from, I had to do X because my boss said so, to something more like, I chose to do X because it aligns with my professional standards, or because it's a necessary input for my larger goal. That shift in the mental framework, it's often the most difficult A to fully embrace, but maybe the most rewarding too.
This is where it gets really interesting for me, because the two parts, that philosophy of input focus and this A4 method framework, they seem to synthesize perfectly now.
They do.
The entire message seems to be about consistency over just, one-off heroic effort.
Precisely. The combined message from our source material is so potent because it really demystifies success. Success isn't presented as some single event, a flash of brilliance or just an outcome you check off a list.
Right.
Instead, it's framed as an ongoing process, something built specifically on consistent, controllable actions and self-improvement, all guided by these 4 pillars, the 4 A's.
Okay, so let's summarize the application for someone listening right now. The input focus gives you the direction. It tells you to look inward at your controllable actions.
Yes, the what to focus on.
And the A4 method provides the structure. It gives you specific types of actions to track awareness, environments to maybe tweak affiliations, skills to actively build, aptitude, and crucially, the mindset of ownership to adopt autonomy.
Exactly. And the fundamental takeaway, the real power here, is that this structure allows you to wake up every single morning and know exactly what small, controllable win you can achieve today, right now.
Takes the mystery out of it.
It takes the mystery out of motivation and replaces it with methodology. You stop waiting around for external validation for someone else to tell you you're doing okay, and you start validating yourself with your own daily process. You know you succeeded because you did the input you set out to do.
So this framework really empowers you to stop waiting for the finish line to declare victory, and instead start celebrating the fact that you showed up today and performed the input, regardless of what the external world or the scale or the client decided that day.
Well put. And if success, at its core, is defined by owning your choices and maintaining those consistent inputs, this raises a really important question for reflection, something that builds directly on that concept of autonomy.
Okay, let's hear it.
What is the one input behavior you are currently performing? Maybe it's a reactive habit you just sort of picked up accidentally, or a response you perform almost thoughtlessly that you have not yet taken full ownership of. Which action haven't you looked at through that deliberate lens of autonomy?
That's a great question to leave people with. Think about that. Which of your actions are currently running on autopilot instead of being a deliberate, owned choice? Food for thought. Well, we hope this deep dive into controllable inputs and the A4 method gives you the structure you need to maybe redefine your goals and hopefully reduce some anxiety starting today.
Own the process.
Thank you for sharing your source material with us. Mel, go out and own those inputs.